Hello, my dear friends. You're in the Military with Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 25th of September of 2025. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. You know that today is a very interesting day, not just because of a lot of updates and events that are taking place on the territory of Europe with all those unknown drones, not about Zelenskyy statements about the ending of the conflict. Today is the second day, probably since the beginning of the special military operation, when the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and the General Staff of the Russian Federation published their map, their vision of the situation on the ground. So this is the map, and according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, this is the situation on the ground by the 24th of September of 2025. So as you can see, there are three colors, there are three types of areas, the areas without any color, so most of the territories have no color. The territories with the pink color, and these are the territories that were taken by Russia by the beginning of the 2025, so by the 1st of January of 2025. And there are territories with red color, and these are the territories that were taken by Russia during 2025. So as you can see, the Russians have some progress on the ground, but obviously not so much. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that during this year, the Russians captured 4,714 square kilometers, which is less than 1% of the Ukrainian territory. But this is not the most important. We're not going to talk about numbers. We're going to talk about some directions, about some areas that's worth our attention. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation provided this map with very good quality, and we, of course, zoomed in the most important directions to understand what is the current status of this or that area. So let's start with the northern directions, with the Kupyansk direction, and let's talk about the northeastern part of Kharkiv Oblast. As we discussed in the previous videos, the Russians improved their positions along the border, and they captured most likely the village of Odradny. We believe that in coming days the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will provide us this information, but this is not the most important area according to the Minister of Defense map. Now let's talk about the city of Kupyansk, and the most interesting part is beginning. Just would like to remind you that yesterday and the day before yesterday, the Russians were talking about significant changes on the ground, that the Russians captured already around 6,000 buildings, and just a bit less than 3,000 buildings left for Russians to capture them, and the city of Kupyansk would be taken completely by Russia. And today the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation published this map that we just discussed, and we have zoomed in this map, and we tried to understand real borders and real lines of combat contact according to the map of the Minister of Defense. So there are lots of important things and details that can help us to understand what is the exact situation on the ground. So few important things. First one is this yellow line. This is the road along the village by the name of Pristin. So if we go back to the map, so this yellow line is this road. So this is it. And as you can see, there is a corner. This is the corner, and this is the corner on the map. You can see this, right? So there is another line, this one, black one or gray one. This is the railways. So this is the railways on the map of the military summary channel. So now we understand that Russian positions goes along the railways and right to the north of this yellow corner. So if we return back to this map, so according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, according to pro-Russian resources, the armed forces of the Russian Federation by the beginning of the 25th of September of 2025 captured all these territories on the western bank of the river Voskol. So these territories, according to Russia, is already under complete Russian control. And of course, if this is the situation, if this is the case, obviously we see that Ukrainian defense in the city of Kupyansk collapsed a long time ago without any chances to restore control over these territories. Ukrainians were caught in cauldron by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Not just the city of Kupyansk is in cauldron, every single city, every single town, every single village, every single stronghold, every single unit of the armed forces of Ukraine in this area was caught in cauldron by Russia. So this is a complete disaster for the armed forces of Ukraine, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, and the corridor for Ukrainians for evacuation is already less than 9 kilometers, but we need to understand that Ukrainians, they can't use this corridor for, let's say, vehicles, for tanks, for cars, for equipment. They can use this corridor just for troopers, and that's it. And obviously Russia controls this area. So this is the Kupyansk cauldron according to the map of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. Anyway, we still haven't received anything that can confirm this. We're talking about videos, we're talking about different mappers, about reliable resources, but something tells me that this is the situation. This is exactly what is happening here. Maybe this is the reason why Zelenskyy began talking like that, like this. Today he made lots of very interesting statements. He was interviewed by Axios newspaper, and he's saying that I'm ready to leave the presidency after the war ends. He also added that elections could be held during the ceasefire. He promised to ask the Ukrainian parliament to organize elections if a ceasefire is reached. Zelenskyy stated that Trump promised to consider providing Kyiv with weapons that would force Russia to the negotiating table. He also threatened strikes against the Kremlin. If Russia doesn't end the war, officials working in the Kremlin should make sure they know where the nearest bomb shelter is. Zelenskyy claimed that Trump supports Ukraine's strikes against Russian energy facilities and military plans in the retaliation for Russian strikes. So as you can see, when talking about the map that was published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, all these things, all these statements of Zelenskyy look like just that he's afraid of, that he's in panic, he's scared, because the picture that we just discussed around the city of Kupyansk is not the only place where Ukrainians suffer huge problems. We will discuss this in details within the next several minutes. So maybe he's not asking Russia, not maybe he's not threatening Russia, maybe he's just asking Russia to stop, and he's ready to leave his chair and to start elections just to stop the war, because he cannot accept the loss of Ukraine. He cannot accept that Ukrainians can lose. He wants to create the picture that Ukraine is not losing and that everything is under control. But Russia doesn't want this picture. As we can see, Russia wants Ukraine to capitulate. So this is most likely the situation. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Siversk Liman direction. During the previous 24 hours, we got the biggest number of updates exactly in this area. The main changes are taking place along the river of Siversk Donetsk. This is, for example, the situation by the end of the 24th of September. This is the situation by the end of the 25th of September. The Russians improved their position significantly, and we have not just, let's say, map changes of different mappers, we have video proofs. In this video, we can see a Russian soldier in the building. This soldier was geolocated exactly in this point. Based on this video, we adjusted this part of the Siversk front line. In this video, we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in the northeastern part of the village of Yampol. Based on this video, we have adjusted this part of the Yampol area, and we had a very important statement that was made by Russian resource that has connections with the 20th Army. He is very familiar with the situation, and he stated that today Russians captured this railway station by the name of Medovy. So this territory was taken by the Russians, and obviously this is a very huge progress on the ground. And we see that the settlement of Yampol is about to be encircled by Russia, semi-encircled at least. And furthermore, the sources reported that the Russians finished the battle for the central and the northwestern parts of the settlement of Zarechne. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation also added today that the Zapad group of forces, the West group of forces, units improved the tactical situation. Russian troops are completing the capturing of Kirovsk, of the village of Kirovsk. So this territory may fall in Russia's hand in coming days or maybe even hours. And now let's move to the most important update, to the map that was published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. And this map is related to the city of Siversk. So this is the map. Once again, first of all, let's try to find the most important things that can give us the understanding where exactly the situation is taking place. And first, let's talk about this yellow line. This is the yellow line, and this is another road. So this is the yellow line that goes from the west. Let's maybe add some lines for better understanding. So this is the map on this is the road yellow line on the military summary map. that goes first in the direction of the city of Siversk, and then this line goes in the southern direction towards the settlement of Zvanovka. So this is the line that goes from the settlement of Zvanovka towards the city of Siversk, and then in the western direction towards the village of Dronovka and the city of Liman. And as you can see, there is a Russian red area, red polygon, red, let's say, territory, which is located right on the central part, right on the area where the roads connect to each other. So the Russians are saying that this probably, let's say, injection of roads, this part of the city of Siversk is under complete Russian control. So Russians and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation is trying to tell us that this part of the city of Siversk is already under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, that the northeastern part of the city was captured by Russia during the previous days of clashes. Of course, we still haven't received anything that can confirm this. First of all, we're talking about geolocations, about videos, about confirmations from very reliable resources, but once again, it seems that this is the situation on the ground. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that the chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, during his previous, let's say, reports and statements, told us that indeed the clashes are already taking place on the territory of the city of Siversk. So most likely this situation is very close to the reality. We're not talking about, of course, every single square kilometer. Maybe the line was added softly, but one thing is clear, that the northeastern part of the city of Siversk is already under complete Russian control. And obviously, if this is the reality, if the city of Siversk, if the city of Kupyansk are the realities that Zelenskyy is living in, obviously we understand why he is trying to force Russia to start the negotiation process, why he is trying to ask the United States of America or to force them to give him missiles and intelligence information to attack and to destroy Russian energy and oil facilities. He wants to force Russia. He can't accept that he's losing. He's just trying to force Russia to stop these things that we can see right now along every single line of combat contact. And saying the truth, this is not the end. We are going to move further, and the situation further is much more difficult for Ukraine that we can see right now. Now let's talk about the city of Kostiantynivka. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates from this area. As you can see, the Russians are bombing the city of Kostiantynivka with aviation, with bombs, with missiles, with artillery. And now important things that I would like to point to attention, very important things. So this is the video that when the Russians attacked another temporary deployment point of the armed forces of Ukraine. And now let's talk about the city of Kostiantynivka. Just important detail for your attention. First, let's take a look at updates that we had, let's say, during August of 2025. As you can see, during the August of 2025, we got updates of Russian attacks, of Russian strikes, of FPV drone attacks all over the inside territory of the city of Kostiantynivka, and not just over the city of Kostiantynivka, but let's say to the south of the city. So all this territory was under very heavy fire of the Russian forces. Now let's say take a look at the updates, let's say from the 21st of September till the 25th of September. And as you can see, there is one important thing that I would like to point to attention. If you can see, there is one area in the city of Kostiantynivka that hasn't been sheltered or attacked by Russian artillery. And you will be right if you think about this corner. So as you can see, during the week between the 21st of September and the 25th of September, we haven't received almost anything from this area. What we have? We have the video where we can see Ukrainian drone flying above this part of the city of Kostiantynivka, and when Ukrainians were filming the destruction of this part of the city. Then we have the map published by the Minister of Defense, and we have an FPV drone attack that took place in the most southern part of the city, and nothing more. So telling the truth, it is very difficult to imagine how is this possible. This is the nearest part of the city of Kostiantynivka to the line of combat contact, to Russian positions, and we see no fire anomalies, we see no strikes, we see no artillery strikes, we see no FPV drone attacks. So what is the reason of this, right? And furthermore, at the same same time, we can see lots of icons right behind this line. So I will not play with you anymore. The thing is that the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation today published their map, and they show that this part of the city of Kostiantynivka is already under complete Russian control. So this is the point. So as you can see, once again, we have yellow line, and this yellow line is the main road between the cities of Konstantinovka, Drushkovka, Kramatorsk, and many other towns. So this is an N20 highway. So let's take a look at this N20 highway once again. This is it. This is the yellow line that goes according to the map of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. This road goes in the city of Konstantinovka. This is the road. It goes further, and then it goes, let's say, in the southern direction towards the settlements of Klibanbyk and Katerinovka. If we turn back to the map, this is this yellow line, and we see that this line, it doesn't matter, this line, according to the Minister of Defense map, was cut by Russia in the central part of the city. So right exactly in the area where the road turns from the eastern to the southern direction, this part was cut by Russia. So this is exactly the situation. This is exactly the place that the Russians cut. It's very interesting. Obviously, this is very crazy updates. And according to Russian resources, this part of Konstantinovka was captured by Russia. Very difficult to believe, very hard to believe in this information, but today we're not going to change anything. We're just discussing the reality where the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation is living in, and the situation that you can find almost on every single map of every single mapper. And of course, once again, if this information is correct with the city of Konstantinovka, with the city of Siversk, and with the city of Kupyansk, this is not just a very bad situation for Ukraine. This is a complete disaster for the armed forces of Ukraine. If this is the situation, if this is the case, obviously it's time to start negotiation process with Russia, and it's better to start this process today, this evening. But we see that the Russian Federation is not ready for this. Russia has their own demands. We discussed them many times. Territories, demilitarization, so returning back of Ukraine into the influence area of Russia, and this will never be accepted by Western countries. And another important thing, why Zelenskyy is demanding and probably ultimatum Russia, why Zelenskyy talks like this. Obviously, he understands that most likely Ukraine, with this pressure, with this situational line of combat contact, most likely will not be able to stand and to hold their lines. Zelenskyy understands maybe that he has maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months, and then that's it. And so that is why this is the only period of time when he can get at least something from the situation. And this is not the end. This is not the end. Now let's talk about the area of breakthrough. So today we got a report that Ukrainians counter-attacked and restored control over the village of Zapovidna, according to neutral mappers and according to some pro-Russian resources. But once again, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation shows us completely different picture. So according to the Minister of Defense, everything that was reported by pro-Ukraine resources, by several pro-Russian resources, is just a simple lie. Russians control the situation. Russians haven't left positions along the second defense line. You know, as for this area, telling the truth, very difficult to believe to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. But anyway, this is the situation they show. You know that today a lot of pro-Ukraine resources are laughing at these pictures. They discuss that if Putin lives in this reality, obviously he thinks and he believes that indeed the Russian Federation can take under complete control the entire Donbass region by the end of this year. So it's very important right now, you know, that's very important, and obviously somebody is going to pay for this. Somebody is going to pay because now we understand that somebody is lying. Either the Russians are lying or the Ukrainians are lying. But the problem is that you can't hide this lie forever. Sooner or later, the lie either of Russians or of Ukrainians will be revealed. But the problem is then when this lie is going to be revealed, this is going to be too late. Too late either for Russians or for Ukrainians. It will be too late, and somebody will take complete advantage on this special military operation, and then we're going to see just the defeat of this or that side. Or probably somebody will be dismissed, either the chief of the general staff of Ukraine, Sirsky, or the chief of the general staff of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov. We will understand this and we will find this out, obviously, during the next 2 or 3 months, because it is impossible to hide this lie forever. one important thing in favor of the Russian map in the area of the breakthrough is that the Ukrainians started their counter-offensive operation at the beginning, somewhere at 14th or 12th of August of 2025. It's already a month and a half has passed since the beginning of this counter-attack, and the Ukrainians still haven't managed to cut this pocket, this area of breakthrough. So telling the truth, it's very difficult to believe that in the area of drones, support, supply, intelligence, in the area of the special military operation, is possible to control this territory and to hold lines and territory like this, even for Russians. So it seems that something is wrong with this pocket, because it's very difficult to believe that Ukrainians still haven't managed to take this territory under complete control. So very difficult to believe. So maybe the Russian map is correct in this area. As for the Zaporozhye direction, there are no changes, no differences between the map that was published by the Minister of Defense and the current situation. So because this is the very fresh direction, the Russians are advancing. They publish about their advances every single day. So the situation here corresponds to the reality and to the different mappers and to different maps. So this is the situation on the ground. And that's it for today. Military with Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.